Okay, good afternoon. It is 4:02 on October 16th. I think I failed to change the title of the podcast. So it's going to look like yesterday's, but today's podcast is we will talk significantly about the 12th District State Senate race. We'll give it a few minutes for people to come on. But before we start talking about politics, over the weekend, if you're from Branford, you may or may not have heard this. I don't think there's no obituary out yet, but member of the Board of Finance, Victor Casella, passed away. And, I'm reaching a point where I've been covering politics down in Branford on the shoreline where, people that influenced me when I was early on, just starting Branford 7, just starting my, journalism, media, whatever career, um, are passing away. Last month or 2 months ago, we lost Peter Banka, who was a great guy. Um, and then we lost Victor Casella. And I've always had an appreciation. Personally, I left a religion and then was very focused on, research and being moderate, looking at the facts, understanding both sides. And as much as these people were political and had a side and they were registered with a political party, they were so focused on just doing the right thing. And Victor Casella is a good example of a very successful business person, a successful career in many, many ways. Staunch Democrat. Donated to almost every Democratic campaign. He was a guaranteed check to every person that was running. But when it came down to his votes, when it came down to discussions on issues, when it came down to making things happen in Branford, as bipartisan and as moderate as it gets, I can't think of, for the last, I think, 10 years or so, the first selectman in Branford has been a Republican. The Board of Finance chair has been a Democrat. Victor is a Democrat. And I cannot remember a time when the Democrats on the Board of Finance voted differently or voted against something Cosgrove put up. And that's a great example of what real bipartisan government is supposed to look like. The Democratic Party in the last few years has definitely lost its way, but we're losing people who set the standard for what bipartisanship should be. They set the standard for what putting your town, putting residents, your neighborhood first should be. And Victor will be missed, a really great guy. I was shocked to hear that on Sunday morning. Apparently had some heart issues or what have you, and it was an untimely death. It was not expected. But my condolences to his family, to all who knew him, and the amount of people who knew him is a vast number. So that's a big loss for Branford, not a small thing, and I wanted to mention that as we got started. Okay, so yesterday we talked a little bit about the national race. A quick look at the polls today. Harris is up aggregate 1.7. All of the battleground states look like they're Trump, except for Wisconsin. So Trump has extremely small, but aggregate. Michigan up a point now. Arizona up 1.1. Georgia up 0.9. North Carolina 1.2. Pennsylvania, which is the biggie, Trump is up 0.3. I have made this argument that I think polling is overestimating Democratic support. My argument, and I could be proven completely wrong on election night, but is that Trump is probably, if he's ahead now, probably actually ahead a few points higher than what we're seeing in the polling. Again, that could be proven election night that Steve has no idea what he's talking about, and he's just completely off. But that's using past elections as an indicator of sorts. So the state Senate race, the 12th District State Senate race, which is Branford and East Haven and parts of North Branford, Guilford, Madison, Killingworth, some Durham, what have you. It's large. It has been held by Christine Cohen for quite a few terms now. And this is a rematch of 2 years ago. Paul Christie ran against Christine Cohen. I'll start by saying I have now worked with Christine for a couple of years in that position. I don't know if I ever moderated a Christine Cohen debate. I've had her on here many times. And I know Paul Christie. I don't know him well, but I know him. I can say good guy. I don't see, on a personality standpoint, outgoing, good guy. See no significant. We've had candidates that have run that I would tell you were not good people. That's not Christie. Good guy. So that being said, we get back down to what are we running on and who brings something to the table. Now, there's a few things that are going to be true when we analyze a state Senate race, a state House race in Connecticut. And that is, Democrats are going to have control. Lamont is the governor. That's not changing for at least a couple of years. Democrats will have the Senate. Democrats will have the House. We know that. That's not going to change. That does impact, if you're a town, do you have somebody there that can get something done? It doesn't mean the minority party can't get anything done, but it does mean that a Democrat may have an advantage when they are in office and they have the majority. The second one is the incumbent also has an advantage of having the connections they already need. They already have the establishment. They know what they're doing up there. So when it comes to getting money back to a town or getting laws passed, they're going to have far more clout than a new Republican may have. That's just a fact. It's just the way it is. It doesn't mean you shouldn't vote for Republican. It doesn't mean you should vote for a Democrat. It just is, this is life. If we're going to vote for someone that's going to have some clout up there, so be it. That said, if you're voting for change, you got to start somewhere. So if you have an issue with Cohen, if you're not supportive of the way the state is going and you want to just make a change, maybe you have an issue with electric cars, or you have electric with the environmental aspect of it or the financial aspect of it, that at some point you have to vote the other way if you have a problem with the person that is currently there. So let's start first with Paul Chrissy. I have not had the candidates on this year. That's kind of on purpose. I just want to base it on what the information is that they put out. And I'm going to start with my kind of significant question marks when it comes to Paul. One, is the key to his platform is something called Project 1829. And I think it's kind of bad marketing, especially in a year when the Heritage Foundation came out with their 2025 plan, and we have all these numbered plans, and I didn't know what the hell is Project 1829. I don't know what this is. And so according to him, in reading, and by the way, he has a ton of videos on his website. Not all are all that informative, but there's a ton. He is a professional marketer. I think that's how he's made his money. And so certainly he's making use of videos for that purpose. If you're watching TV or on any website, you'll see the ads all over the place. He is self-funding. So Christine Cohen is limited to state funding, which is, I think, $120,000 or $130,000. Chrissy can spend whatever he wants. It was in the hundreds of thousands of dollars 2 years ago. I'm sure that it's there again this year as well. So that said, I have no problem with somebody self-funding. I know Democrats want to attack that he's trying to buy it. No, it's completely within the rules. There's nothing wrong with it. If a Democrat came in with a ridiculous amount of money and he was spending it, they would have no problem with that. So any complaints about how much money he's spending or self-funding in the campaign, I think is nonsense. There was also a complaint that there were people, he was putting ads in the newspaper that looked like articles. That's happened since the beginning of time. So the idea that that's something, untoward or something that shouldn't happen in an election is just nonsense. I mean, listen, we live in a world where there's more fake news than you could possibly imagine. And since the beginning of time, people have put ads out that look like articles. And Democrats have done it. Republicans have done it. The idea that this is somehow offensive or he's trying to do something unethical is wrong. Normal marketing, normal campaigning, not that big a deal. So then we go to his website. And this 1829 plan, and if you want to follow along, I am clicking on it right now. So if you're in front of a website or in front of a computer or laptop and you want to go to Paul Chrissy, it's PC4CT, so paulchrisy4ct.com. On it, you'll see the first on top Project 1829 and beyond. And, it is basically saying we want to take steps to keep people here, find ways to help them buy homes, stay in. There's a bunch of tax breaks to a wide, first year of owning a home. You get it. Let's actually go through this. When elected, I will champion Project 1829 and beyond, which offers a wealth of opportunity instead of excuses. I hate the name, but so be it. Here's some of the laws that he wants to pass. No Connecticut state tax on home improvements in the first year of ownership for first-time buyers between the ages of 18 and 34. That's very specific, but okay. So they buy a house. I'm not sure how many state taxes would be on home improvements in that regard. I'd have to look that up. I'm not sure. Like if you do a new roof, is that tax? If it's siding, is that tax? That kind of thing. I don't know the answer to that. But maybe it's an incentive to get something done. Okay. Additional Connecticut state tax write-offs for house necessities in the first year for first-time homebuyers between the ages of 18 and 34. You'd have to detail what house necessities means, but I'm guessing, I don't know, plumbing equipment or something. Connecticut state tax write-offs for first-time car buyers between the ages of 18 and 34. Okay. We don't have a lot of details on what these write-offs are, but he has an outline of something. Higher education Connecticut state tax incentives for businesses that participate in the funding of employee college tuition. Okay. Resident retention plan for first-time homebuyers between the ages of 18 and 34. Connecticut-based businesses incentivization for offering paid internships with formal training and certifications, as well as first right of refusal program once they graduate. There's a lot here. Small, medium, and large Connecticut-based businesses incentivized to hire Connecticut-based employees on the ages of 18 to 34 by offering those businesses stair-step tax incentives based on the lucrativeness of the salary and level of the training. Okay. Basically, he wants to give away a lot of money. And it's really hard, unfortunately, as I'm reading this, and I don't know if it's unfortunate or not. I mean, I talked about this a little bit yesterday, but this is a lot of the, Kamala Harris plan of just, here's more money. You can't afford a house, here's more money to buy a house. Can't afford a car, here's some more money to buy a car. The one that kills me, and I had to read it a couple of times. It's a long one here. An incentivized stair-step tax incentives based on the lucrativeness of the salary. I don't know who wrote this. The copywriter needs some help, but on the lucrativeness of the salary and level of training given to the new hires, the bottom line would be the more Connecticut-based individual between the ages of 18 and 34 is paid, the more tax incentives the companies would enjoy. So let's just get this straight for a second. If somebody is paid more money, the taxpayers also pay more money to the company. That's idiotic. That doesn't make any sense. So the more money that employee makes, the state is going to incentivize that company to pay them more and get a tax break for paying the employee more. That's nuts. That doesn't make any sense. So I don't understand the thought process behind this. And by the way, that's the end of the plan. There's nothing anywhere that proposes how we would pay for this. It's all, we're going to give out this, we're going to give out more money for a house, more money. If you're under the age of 34, under his plan, which likely can't pass, but his plan, if you're under 34, you have major incentives to buy a car, buy a house, buy things for the house, have your roofing and siding done. And then if you're paid more in a job, the government will somehow give tax incentives to your employer for paying you more money. God help you when you turn 35, because that's when this program ends. So I don't know. There's not a lot of details here, but really what's missing in this whole plan is how do you pay for any of this stuff? Now, on his pay, it's a little tough because on his page, looking at his plan, he has to click a thing here that says Paul's platform, and there's a bunch of videos. And I didn't realize till after I watched 5 or 6 of these videos that some of these are from 2 years ago. But there's one that really bothered me. I don't know if sound will show up if I click on this. This is the ad. Okay, that's not true. And that might be from 2 years ago, but that mentality isn't true. Where we had shortfalls in our unfunded mandates is in the money being paid in the out years in teacher pensions and in state employee benefits. It is not due right now. We have underfunded. Look at it this way: if you want to retire with $2 million, to do that, you have to put a certain amount of money in your 401k every year. We were behind on those payments. There's not some boogeyman that shows up and says, "Oh my God, you owe this money now." That's not what happens. So that entire concept was wrong, and he still has that video on his website. So I'll take him for that's what he's running on. But more importantly, I don't see anything besides this plan. There is nothing that dictates stances on key issues. There's nothing that gives us any indication of how he would raise money to pay for all of these tax cuts he's given. And quite frankly, reading his 18 to 34, 20, whatever the plan is, the name of the plan is, sounds like Kamala Harris saying, "Oh, you can't afford a house. Here's $25,000, and we're losing on the black vote. Well, here's $20,000 for forgivable mortgages or loans to black people." And it was just, here's money to different groups to try to get them. This plan doesn't seem to make much sense to me. So I've watched every video on the site. I've read everything I can. I've read press releases. I am not seeing any concrete ideas as to what he wants to do differently. And here's the problem with that. This is not his first time running. And you're running in a presidential year. It's a very uphill battle for a Republican. I don't know that his goal was to run again. It may have been, we need somebody to run, and he's running and he's doing it and he's fine. Maybe he enjoys running for office. More likely, he has a marketing company. He's making political connections, and he's going to help his business down the road, and that's fine. But there's nothing on the website and nothing in what he's put out that I see a concrete idea that is feasible, that he has a plan to say, all right, we're going to give out this amount of money, and we're going to tax this amount of money to offset that. There's nothing here. And if you're giving, you're saying, I'm a consultant, I'm a new set of eyes to come in and look at these things, I'm going to analyze this budget, and you're not giving me real fact-based information, I question whether or not you are the person to do that. The other significant issue I have, and I've had this the first time he ran, and I had it now. As soon as he ran, I said, this question came up. I've been turned into Capitol, and I've covered politics now for about 15 years, maybe longer than that. And I can tell you this, the first job of a state rep, of a state senator, is constituent issues. It is mundane, sometimes difficult, questions that come in over and over. Can you help me with this? I can't get the health care that I need. Can you help me get this done in my neighborhood? Can you help us get money for this nonprofit event? Can you, so to all of these, it's just a constant stream of constituent issues. Now, they have help up there. They have a secretary that works with one or two representatives. But that's your job. That's the first thing you have to do. And if you go back and look at, Sean Scanlon is now the state comptroller. He started running locally. Christine Cohen ran Board of Education, local boards first before going for this office. On the other side, Robin Comey served locally in a variety of different ways and on the RTM. Ray Ingraham served for years in multiple boards and on the RTM for a long time. These are people that have experience dealing with constituents. They have experience sitting in meetings that are two parties and often contentious. You have people coming and yelling. If you've been to Board of Ed meetings, you've had parents come and yell at you publicly. If you've been to RTM, you've had parents show up angry. You've had constituents show up angry. You've gotten mundane call after mundane call that you must take and respond to and help those people. I know because I've sent calls to Comey and Ingraham and Cosgrove and to Sean Scanlon and to Christine Cohen on a regular basis with constituent issues that come to me, and I send them there. There's kind of a hierarchy of proving yourself at different levels before running to the top. Like, he's not even running for state rep. He's running for state senate, which is an incredibly powerful seat. And I would say if somebody says, I want to serve, but has shown no desire to serve on a local board, a housing authority, the Board of Education, I don't know, any local, the water conservation board, the sewer authority, something that says, I want to be at a local table handling local constituent issues with Democrats and Republicans and work out our differences and move forward. I don't see that in his history. And I question how you run 2 years ago. And in the meantime, don't go to the first selectman or don't go to somebody else in town and say, listen, for Christ's sake, put me on the board. We have openings all over the place. Let me volunteer somewhere. I don't care how innocuous it is. It doesn't matter how small the board is. Let me get on there. So at least I can say I took questions. I dealt with constituents. I sat at a table with Democrats and Republicans. We worked out our issue and we moved forward. I see none of that on his resume. I see he has a marketing company. I see he moved to Branford about 6 years ago. I see he has 3 daughters. That's nice. That's great. Wonderful. But I don't see that you have experience doing the most important aspect of a job as a representative of others. And so you're running to represent the residents of 5, 6, 7 towns along the shoreline, but you couldn't run for a basic board locally. You couldn't run for the Board of Ed. You couldn't run for never mind. You don't even have to run. Just get appointed to something to show that you give a damn about what happens on a day-to-day level, because you're still going to have to deal with that up at the state level. Ray Ingraham is running for state level. He's going to deal with some of the same constituent issues that he deals with now. Christine Cohen, as a state senator, deals with some of the same constituent issues that she did when she was on the Board of Education. Robin Comey, same thing. I know still I can send somebody to Sean Scanlon as comptroller, and he will handle something on that type of level. So showing that you have some experience in handling constituent issues would have been a huge plus here for Paul. So I don't know the backstory of why he chose to run, but I can say this. The centerpiece of what he's running on doesn't make fiscal sense yet. I don't see a plan to pay for the things he wants to give out. He wants to give out a ton of money. And this is age, 19 to 34. So how many 19 to 34-year-olds do we have in Connecticut? It's a huge number. We want to give tax incentives for buying a house, improving a house, buying a car. Then if you're paid more by your employer, we're going to give tax incentives to the employer, which doesn't make sense. The more money the employee makes, the more the state taxpayers should pay for it. That's bad math. And then I say, what's your experience dealing with constituents? And it's nothing. And that's a problem when you're running for state senate. I would say run locally first, then maybe state rep at some point. And then if you don't want to take the town path, like you have Jamie Cosgrove running for first selectman, right? No one's going to knock him out. And he has no desire to run for other stuff. He took that path. He wants to stay local. He's a Branford guy. But if you want to take the larger path, okay, show you can do it on a local level first. Serve on a board or two. I don't care if it's a nonprofit board, something that shows you give a damn about constituent issues locally. And we don't see that from him. Now, then you have Christine Cohen. And if you are someone who looks at the situation and says it's just time for change, okay, vote for Paul Christie. He's not a bad guy. He's not going to go up there and do bad things. I don't think he's going to hurt the state. But if that's your mentality, so be it. It makes far more sense for me as a constituent in this district to vote for Christine Cohen. In a personal experience, everyone I've ever sent to her with an issue, it was handled. Whether it was during COVID and getting unemployment checks or healthcare issues or anything I've ever sent to her. There's times I sent people to her without saying it was coming from me. I said, don't mention my name. And within an hour or two, they had a response. And they're usually a very detailed response. I had one message her on electric cars, why you can't buy a Tesla in a state that is pushing for electric cars so hard. And it was a very detailed explanation. Christine, in every conversation I had, doesn't necessarily talk in platitudes. She gives us pros and cons of both sides, understands the issues that we're talking about. I like that. It's not just, hey, I understand how bad things are, so send me there. It's here's the pros and cons of both sides. The key part of Chrissy's every ad is we're not about politics, we're about common sense. No, you should be about policy. Common sense is don't put your hand on a hot stove. Policy isn't common sense. Policy is what are the pros and cons of each side. Policy is should a tax rate be 3 or 3.5%, and if it is those difference, what difference does it make in the lives of people? What can you pay for? What can you not? It's not common sense. It's not supposed to be common sense. If it was common sense, I can elect anybody to do it. That's what common means. I want policy. I want to know what you actually are going to do, why you're going to do it. Do you understand all the different sides of an issue before you tell me what side you're going to choose and you're going to push to implement? And I'm not seeing that from his site. I don't doubt that he has the intelligence to do it. I just don't see it. Now, on Christine Cohen, there's some things I'd like to see different. She's been there for a while now, and she's in a district, especially in Guilford. She couldn't lose Guilford if she wanted to. This might be a little tighter, but I can't imagine it's going to be an incredibly tight race in a presidential year. Next year, not a presidential year, she has almost no chance of losing. I'd now like to see her, that she has clout in Hartford, start taking up some issues that impact the shoreline that we're seeing Democrats in inner cities fight against. Very specifically, affordable housing laws, which are terrible, which are nightmarishly bad laws. But what happens is the inner city Democrats have so much power in Hartford that the Democrats on the outer towns don't have that power. So they often shut up about it. They may give you the lip service of, yeah, we understand that there's issues and we can't count our trailer parks and our condos and we're not allowed to do all those things, but they're not going to step forward to actually change it. She's in a position where if she wins this year, she's not losing for at least 4 years. Now's the time we can start taking on those projects. There was a case locally in Branford where there were multiple grant applications that went in. One was for a playground at Veterans Park that was not approved. One came from the Blackstone Library to add 2 meeting rooms to the library, which made absolutely no sense whatsoever. That was approved. I'm not happy about that. If I could have had a few words with Ms. Representative or Senator Cohen before that was approved, I would have done so. That made no sense. The Blackstone is kind of its own entity, and they've been given so much money. It's just crazy that happened. But I'd much rather see a playground funded from the state instead of that. But that said, there's a few reasons to vote for Christine. One, she's done a good job. She understands the issues. She responds to constituents. You may disagree with her fundamentally, but I have not seen her make a vote that is egregious in any way. It's not extreme in any way. We are a state that is pushing for electric cars. That's going to happen. So is every car manufacturer has divisions creating electric cars as we speak. So it makes sense to support that to a certain extent. How that rollout has happened, I don't love. How the contracts have been given to some electric car chargers or those sort of things, I don't love. I think there's been some issues there, but that's normal. That's what happens when you roll things out. And I'm not against her pushing for electric cars. Not letting Tesla sell in the state, yeah, that should be changed. But that will piss off a bunch of other car manufacturers or car dealerships. And so we've held off from doing those sort of things. But overall, she's done a good job. And, unlike his video about the money that's not there, Connecticut is in a significantly better fiscal shape than it was just a couple of years ago. A little bit of luck. COVID actually helped. We have a lot of federal money coming in. We have a lot of people moving to Connecticut during COVID that are high earners. So, sometimes as an elected official, you kind of just get, credit for what happens on your watch. And sometimes you get blamed for what happens on your watch, even if you had nothing to do with it. I think Christine Cohen has done a very good job of moving up the ranks in Hartford, getting clout, getting credibility. I bet she can walk into Lamont's office whenever she wants. When she wants to get something, if she's passionate about it, will likely get it for us and get it for the constituents. She's paid her dues. She has experience in working with constituents, which to me is the most important aspect of the job. And I just don't see hardcore ideas and plans from Chrissy. I see marketing slogans. I see bumper sticker politics, but I don't see policy. And I don't care about common sense. Common means anybody can do it. I want policy. I want facts. I want actual things that show us, all right, we're going to give out money here and get money here and offset it, and it makes fiscal sense. I'm not seeing it from the things Chrissy has put out. Maybe there's more behind the scenes, I don't know, but in the things, in the press releases I've read, in the website that I've gone through, and in all the videos that I've watched, I have not seen a concrete plan to fund the money he wants to give away. And I will make the exact same argument about Kamala Harris, who is saying the same things. I'm going to give out money. I'm going to give out money. I'm going to give out money. Oh, we're losing with that demographic. Here's money to that demographic. Oh, we're losing to that. Oh, here's money to that group. We can't buy a house. We'll give you more money. So instead of doing things to bring down the cost of housing, no, we'll just give you more money, which creates more buyers, which further pushes up inflation. So it's an odd comparison. One's a Republican, one's a Democrat, but there are some similarities there. And neither has presented any real plan to pay for those things. So in that race, and I know this is not a surprise, but in the 12th District State Senate race, Christine Cohn is the person to vote for. You're going to get better representation, and you're going to get someone who actually has some standing in Hartford. That takes time to get, but she's in the majority on this smaller legislative body. If she wants to get something done, if we are a town that needs to get something done, she's responded in the past. She's responded to the first selectman on passing laws that have helped our town, help us set up financial funds to save for global warming. And she's incredibly responsive when we need her to be. She is the choice that I'm going to make. That's who I'm voting for, and I suggest you vote for as well. Doesn't mean Paul's not a good guy, but I'd like to see him turn around. If he's going to run again, start running for local boards. Show that you can work with the other side on that level. Show that you can deal with constituents who are happy with you, who love you, and are also angry with you. So that you can get things done in the minutia. It's not beneath you. I understand you're wealthy. I understand you're funding your own campaign, but you don't start at state senate. You can start locally and work your way up like everybody else before you has. Okay, so tomorrow we'll talk about the 102nd district. That's Ray Ingraham and Robin Comey. Tonight, if you're around in the Branford area, I don't care even if you're not in the Branford area, at 8 o'clock, the Mets game is on at the community house. I've worked with, thank you to Mike Capone over at the Capone's Pizza. We're going to pick up some pizzas and get some breads over there, and it's a generous thing for him to do to support this. Again, the changes at the community house and the senior center are really, really good. I have heard from so many seniors that are so happy to see the positive things happening. It's really good to see. We want to have more events there of all ages, but especially our seniors. Come on out, watch a few innings of the game, have a slice of pizza, say hi, and hopefully I'll see you tonight if you're there. Until then, I will see you tomorrow at 4 o'clock. We'll talk